And we are back. We're going to look at a little bit more detail of manipulating the image next. So this is going to go into the most powerful tool in Photoshop, the Control T, the free transform, which allows you to move, scale, rotate, shift, warp, skew, change perspective, flip back and forth, horizontal, mirror it back and forth. We'll look at the rotate again a little bit and then dip into just we're not going to get into color so much as just controlling the foreground and background swatches that are used, which defaults to black and white with D. X switches those back and forth. I is your eyedropper, so you want to pick and use a particular color. And then we'll get into the G key, the gradient, which shift and then G. Switching it to the sub will go into the paint bucket, right? So if I hit G on the keyboard, and right there you can see paint bucket is actually the alternate one, but if I hit Shift and G, it'll switch over to the gradient tool. So, I mean, from the gradient tool to the paint bucket and vice versa. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so go to a new layer here, and remember I can double click in there to name it. So we'll name this one gradient and warp and free transform. Control G, again, we'll group it, right? So we can do into the free transforms. And if I want to fill a background, so if I go in here and I want to do another layer on that one, I get locked in somehow. Yeah, there we go. So Control Shift N, we'll call this background. Let's put a gradient background. See if I can spell right. Yeah. Okay, so the gradient background, just click and drag that, and you can switch places there. And so this is on top of this group of layers on top of all the other ones, right? So if I have all these other layers below it, so I have the lasso group one I was playing around with, and below that we have the marquee one where we're just playing with the marquee tool and adding and subtracting from the selection. So all that's behind it. It's okay, and they're kind of stacked on top of each other, right? So now we want to have like a fresh background. So let's look at the gradient tool. So I hit G, go to the gradient, and you can see I've been playing with mine's a little bit of different color in there. So if we open up the gradient tool, you can see there's basics. You can go the foreground to background, I think, is the standard one, or is that going to actually default? Let's see if I go back up here to this one. And if I switch my gradient, yeah, okay, so this is just going to switch to whatever my foreground and background color is. It's going to go from one to the other. So if I click here and drag, you can see it's going from the black, the foreground color, to the white. And as I drag, if I hold Shift, it's going to snap on some degree angles on there. Right, so hold that, get down the bottom. So that should be 100% white, 100% black up there. Hit Enter on the keyboard, cancel. So I'm still active in the gradient tool. Once I click off of that, I'm out of there. So if I were to pick different foreground, background colors, right? So let me undo that. Oh, this is pretty active too. So if I click on this, it's going to give me the active gradient tool. So it's actually a live tool now, which is pretty nice. So if we want to, let's go, let's do some of the standard, like kind of sky type of stuff. Do that one, and we'll go to like a red orange, something like that, and go back into the gradient tool, and just going to click and drag another one. See if that one didn't go through. There we go. This one. So this is like a typical orange to blue background if you wanted to do like a sky color or something like that. So there you go. So this is now on top. So this gives me, so before we had this locked background here. So now if I have that as my gradient color, I can go in there and I can lock that. Oops, I wanted to lock this one. There we go. And it's a little different. I'm still not used to the newer one. New maybe like 4 or 5 years ago for all I know. I don't remember. But yeah, it stays active. So you can go back in here. If I hit the gradient tool, um, see if I unlock that, go back in there. Yeah, if I click on that little gradient icon, you see I can still go in here and I can still change the direction. And you can also grab the little dial here that's going to be the blend between the two colors, between the foreground and background. So I can kind of shift that. tighter up to just barely going from the orange into the light blue, and then or I could bring it all the way down where it's kind of going more for the orange so it gets a tight band on there. And you can see it's not perfectly straight. So if I grab this, if I hold shift, that's going to snap that. Or if I go to this one, um, there should be a way to go in here and save these. So yeah, right there. So if we go in there, if we like one we have, create a new preset, we save that as a preset. I'll get into more detail on that. We don't want to get that. You also have a radial one available here, angle and reflected. So let's try radial for a moment, and you can see what happens with the radial gradient. It's pretty awesome. So you click and drag. So there's my little sunset up there. So this gives you in effect an airbrush, right? So this is a very powerful tool for digital drawing and painting, because now I can kind of set, have a sun in there and play around with some shapes. So that's on the gradient layer by itself. Again, I can lock that up. I go back on top of that here now, and I go back into so I could do lasso, or remember L, and then Shift L is going to switch between them. There's magnetic and there's the paint fill. So pretty much a regular lasso, polygonal lasso. Those are the ones I'm looking at today. So if I want to click this straight across, right? Click one time, go across. What do you think I hold? Shift. Yes, Shift will give you a straight line. So I can go across like that. Up. So kind of Etch a Sketch for those of you who even know what Etch a Sketch is. There you go. So I'm just kind of doing like a little cityscape and having a little fun with this. So default's to 90 and 45-degree angles. I'm sure there's we can get more detail with it than that, but there we go. And if you get to the end, if you can't get that little circle to close, the polygonal lasso, if you're like out here, just hit let go and just hit enter. At least it used to work. Okay, I guess not. There we go. We have like a little, so this is, remember, this is selection. It's empty, nothing selected. So I can go in here and I can move that around. Now, if right click, right, and I can transform the selection, so I could change the size of the selection. So if you did like what are called matte painting, digital matte painting, city backdrops and things like that, I can go in here and fill this like that. All right, and before I do this, so let's see, I'm going to do another layer, Control Shift N. I'll call this Cityscape. There we go. And we go back to the gradient tool G, and inside of this one, I'm going to take the one that I made. I'm going to say click that one, and I'll say make new gradient, and we'll call this skyline or sunset. Be fine. We'll go back to these colors in here. Oh, one's radial, that's right, that was the difference. And then back to gradient. Let's see here if I can get this. Okay, yeah, it's still on the circular one. So we want to switch that from radial to linear. And we'll go like that. And see if we can move the gradient down here so you can play around with that. And inside the colors themselves, you can go in here and let's go darker, desaturated for one color. Maybe I gotta go click inside of here and grab the other one. Instead of that, we'll go like a darker, less saturated blue, something like that. Oops, where'd my cityscape go? Totally messed it up. Oh, okay, it's using the mask from my gradient, that's right. So we need to change the color in here, I guess. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then we have that in there, and you can still move it around and play with it, right? And it's a lot of fun goofing around with this. So I have like my little gradient tool. So just this by itself, right, is really powerful. Now, if I want to complete this gradient, if I want to actually go in here and manipulate it some, I would need to drop it down into another layer. So what I do, go in here, make another layer, Control Shift N, and same thing, I call it Cityscape, right? I'll take this layer here. If I want to have this here to play around with more later, I'll just duplicate this whole layer. So I'm going to go up in here and say Control J. That will replicate the layer. Should be up there in your notes. You can copy of a new layer. Turn it off. Take the one that I want to collapse down, and that one is Control E, drop merge a layer into the one below it. So Control E. What'll happen is you'll see the pixel, the gradient thing disappears, the mask disappears, and now I just have that cityscape. So now I can go in here and I can actually, strange, there we go, move. Huh, what did I do? That lock it. Oh, I still have my, yeah, if you do the move auto select to switch to group on accident, just be aware. It's going to mess you up. There we go. And now I have this little, cityscape thing that I can play around with. It's really fun. Control T, retransform. I can still move this around if I want to get it out to the edges. I could also take this, and if it was, say this was a lake or something, Control J, duplicate that, and I'll go cityscape underscore reflection. Reflection. There we go. And I'll take that and I'll just kind of, whoa, grab it. I want to move it down without scaling, so hold shift. I can move that down like that. There we go. And say if there was water or something like that in there, I could take this piece like this and I could kind of do this or that with it, right? There we go. So holding down control, excuse me, lets me move this around. If I go up here to the sky, let's see, I'm going to keep that one there, Control Shift N, and I'll just type in bird. And we'll go up here to the top. I'm going to go to my marquee tool, M. This time I'm going to go to the elliptical marquee tool. So if I click and hold, you see the ellipses underneath it. If I'm out here drawing that, I want to stop and go do that, right? When I go Shift M, that switches to the elliptical marquee. There we go, there's one. I then hold down the Alt key and do another one, right? So I'm gonna cut away in there to make some nice little bird wings in there. But as I pull this new ellipse, I want to move it, right? So as I'm pulling, so hold down Alt. This is really annoying. New tool. So hold down Alt, I go across and then hit the space bar. Try it again, Alt, space bar. Well, it used to work like that. No? Okay. Click drag, Alt space bar. Oh, it's like totally freezing up on me. Okay. There it went, like that time. So take away, see I got this cool little shape there. And it's on its own layer, it's bird. And I can fill that with whatever color I want. So remember, Alt Delete fills with the foreground, Control Delete fills with the background color. And something, there we go. There's one, and I want to zoom in here a little bit. All right, and Control D is deselect, V to move. And grab that around. See, I want to duplicate that, so I'm going to go Control J, right? Makes a copy of it. Control T gives me the free transform, and I can flip it horizontal. There we go. Bring that right on over like that. And there you go. There's my little bird. Bird, as Bambi said. Cool. Now, if I want to do more than one of these, or play around with these shapes, what I can do is collapse this down. So I'll go Control E, collapse that down. So now it's one layer again, named bird. Go to my move tool, which right now is set to layer auto select. So I just got to be careful. If I don't go down here, it's going to switch it to cityscape, right, and move the cityscape. So the pixels you have directly underneath your selection arrow, if you have auto select on with your main move tool, just be aware that that's on off. I should find out the shortcut key for that if there is one. But there you go. So now I can kind of move the bird around and get a composition to play around with. Right. Control J, duplicate it. Control T, change the size. And if I wanted to, I could go into the free transform and we have warp. And I can actually warp this around. And check this out. This is really fun. right? And if I wanted to do, I don't know, like add a tail in there, I'll go back to lasso, do like a little sparrow tail, something like that. Enter to close. Alt delete fill with the foreground color and go up here to the next one. Make sure that one's selected. Go back to my polygonal lasso, make sure it's on the right layer you're working on, and do the same thing. Fill with the foreground color and deselect. So there you go. So nothing too fancy, but uh, playing with the tool, that's what you want to do. You want to just get in here and goof around and play around. So that's with the free transform to move and warp things around. Let's do a few more in here. So let's go ahead and grab. Let's see, we'll call that free transform city. I'll collapse down that group as well, and we'll do another one. Control Shift N. We'll do some crazy warps. There we go. And turn the rest of these off. Control Shift N. Another background. There we go. Put that behind it, underneath it, right? I go to D, go to my default, go to G, go to my gradient tool, go with the default there. And maybe not pure black, let's go like a little more, something like a little more medium gray. And for the background, we'll go like a light gray, like that. That'll be a little less intense. And you can go either way you want. Do that. Use the spacebar, get it more positioned. Z, zoom out a little bit. Go to my gradient. And it doesn't have to be perfectly straight up and down, of course, right? So we could go, at a bit of an angle or the other angle and play with it and do that. So if you click and drag as you go and hold shift, it'll be straighter usually. Enter. Okay. Enter. Okay. Yeah, this interface is a little different than what I am used to. Okay, this one inverts it. And there's the gradient properties right there. So there's a bunch of stuff. We could do like a whole hour. I'll do a whole video just on gradients by themselves. Go back to layers, go to the one on top, or wait, yeah, flip this one, dark to light, light to dark. Okay, there's crazy warps, and we'll get in there with the marquee tool. So we'll do some circles, and does not like when I do the space bar. Adding to it, taking away. Go Shift M, go back to my rectangular marquee and add some more to it. Right, there we go, something like that. And a lot of the sci-fi artists work this way. I don't know if I want to do like some, I don't know, wacky space station or something like that. So I have that selected. I'll go back to my gradient tool again, and I'll just kind of play around with this tool some more. That. There we go. And if I want to use that mask again, I just hold on Control, see the marching ants, and then remember Control, and clicking on the little thumb icons in there usually will give you something interesting. I'll go Control Shift N. We'll call this atmosphere. There we go. And maybe we'll do a little bit lighter in the gradient this time. I don't know how much difference there is between those two. I try to go pure black to white if I'm actually working on something, just because it will tend to deaden. If you can't go any darker, can't go any lighter, you might deaden your scene up a bit. There we do something like that. And then this time what I can do is go to the opacity and just kind of play that down a little bit, right? So I have different opacities I'm playing with. And just, goof around, see what comes out of it. Um, just like abstract shape play is just, it's near infinite of what you can do. Let's see if I get one more layer here and do some more. So the law of atmospheric perspective is something we should talk about a little bit. So atmospheric perspective means that the farther away the things are, the less saturated and the lower the contrast of the object. So I'm going to put like some, whoops, I'm going to do maybe some alien-esque structures in the background. And if the gradient contrast is lower and there's no color in this one, but if there was color, that would be another part, give or tell for atmospheric perspective. So shift, and then let go of shift and go to alt to take away. And then if I wanted to take away some more shapes, could do some more alien. You'll see this in some futurist. Now, when you're doing this, by all means, please, you're meant to play with whatever you want. I am absolutely just riffing here. I have no forethought, so that's what I'm hoping you do. Just kind of make something new, make something different. There we go. So for this, if I didn't want to do a gradient, I could just go to the maybe medium dark here. And this is where the color picker comes in. So you have that on your notes here, right? So we're through the transform, we've done the rotate, we've done default, we switched to color swatches back and forth with the X key. We're now in the eyedropper and we've done the gradients and filled foreground background. So we've kind of gone through all the introductory page notes on there up to this point. So now if I eyedrop, I can pick, like say I want to pick this white right there. Oops. There we go. So I click that, and then if I want to fill that, I just hit Alt Delete, right? And that will fill with that foreground color. There we go. Pretty neat. Now, if I don't want to see the marching ants, right? A tab on the oops. We want to hide those. The view on there is to show extras. There's Control H. So I should probably do that for the hide extras. So if the marching ants kind of get in my way of analyzing this, if this is good, so I hit tab on the keyboard, F one time, F a second time, Z to zoom in. I'm looking at this. Control H will hide my marching ants so I can kind of see a little bit more what's happening in there. So they're still there. They're still selected, but I can really analyze what that looks like for myself as I'm kind of seeing if I want to do. So I do like a lot of cityscape shape play with this, and we'll make custom brush tip shapes with this and do rockets and just a lot of surrealism and playful shapes come out of this type of exercise. So, okay, I think that's it for this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed these first 4 videos enough to make stuff just with your M, Shift M, your L, Shift L to the regular lasso. If I want to add some organic shapes in there, then Shift, something like that, and add that in there to the background, something like that. To another one, Control Shift N, mountains. Maybe pick a different color. Maybe go eyedrop. Maybe do this dark gray back there. Alt Delete, fill with it. Control D, Control T, bring it down. Bring it up, right? Hold Shift to move that. And we're not even painting it. We're just getting like shapes, some basic fun shapes in there to goof around with, right? Not fun. And everything's on a control layer. Doing this by hand would take a long time, for sure. So Yeah, we also looked at the gradient tool G, which also Shift G went to the paint bucket. The eyedropper was I. That's where I just started like changing colors, like picking colors right off the palette. That might make sense for us. And then we got down here to the default. So that's just the default black and white. So if I get back to my marquee tool, oops, spacebar, right, and D, and then X switches back and forth, foreground and background. And I think before I sign off here, I think the image, if I want to like manipulate these, are all kind of a similar gray color. I can go up here into image adjustments and we can look at the levels, the curve, and hue saturation. Control L, Control M, and the hue saturation, Control U. These will be on adjustments. So let's try each of those. So I'm going to take the mountain range and I'm going to hit Control U one time. It's going to take me here to hue saturation value. I don't have any hue. You can colorize, however, if you wanted to. Right? I can make these darker or lighter right in here. And hit OK. I can go to the buildings here. And if I want to see a little better, I could turn that off and go in these buildings, hit Control U. It's going to do everything on that layer. I can make them darker or lighter. Right? I could colorize them if I wanted to. I mean, I'm trying to avoid color still a little bit. Huh. Turn that off. You could also play around with the levels. So Control L. Yeah, actually, let me stay away from the levels and curves. Just Control U, I think, to make it lighter or darker. So we'll go to this next one right here. Hit Control U. And again, it's effectively has the gradient on it still. So if I want to get rid of that gradient, Control Shift N. We'll call it Crazy Warps. And we got to get rid of this locked gradient tool in here. We just have to make a layer below it. Go to there, hit Control E to drop it down. Now I have full control. When I hit Control U, I can make it lighter. I can make it darker. Right? Cancel out of that. And the same thing here. So that's atmosphere. Right? Pretty subtle. Not much going on there. We will for sure. When we get there, like it's going to start, having color and really using the paint brushes and things like that. But for now, the atmosphere we want it to be a lot lighter or a lot darker. We could also erase away and use, start really using the brushes, colorize. We could, get a little, maybe a little baby blue atmosphere on that one. That off still. And yeah, I think this is a good place to stop. Control T, maybe get in here to warp. I want to fill this bottom part. I can kind of control these anchor points to bring the mountain range all the way down across the bottom. There we go. And you play around with how you want this warp grid to work. Maybe get real surreal with it and have everything swirling. Like the prison planet of Crematoria and the Carmichael's Iridic, where it's getting blasted by the sunrise every day. Like fire going on the surface every day. That was pretty cool. It was like spiked almost like hell. You can surface, hit enter. You can see now what that's looking like. Playing with that. And now you're playing with our compositional elements. And if I still have V, my move button on the auto select, I could turn off atmosphere, go crazy warp. So I can grab this one, can move that around. And you'll see how it looks in different parts of based on what's behind it, it's going to drastically change what it looks like. Right? Go to the other one, these little background buildings. I could change these around. And then remember, they're not changing color, they're just changing what's behind it. So it looks like they're changing color, but they're not, which is pretty sick. There you go, like that. And then if I want to make these a little more prominent, just hit Control T, and I can do, or not prominent, but I want to make them like a little more faded in the background. I could do that. If I want to duplicate it, Control J. bring it over again. Control T, maybe make them more in the background. There we go, like that. Enter. This one in the front here, maybe hit Control U, maybe darken it some more, or brighten it. It's going to get rid of the gradient though, so I just have to be careful, what that effect's going to be. All right, great. I'll see you in the next video.